So to get this out of the mixing bowl, what I like to do is take some flour and generously flour around the edges and a little bit on the top as well. Now I take my dough scraper and I push down on the sides, and that flour is going to help it to not stick to the dough scraper. And I try to be gentle as much as I can. I want to keep some of this air inside the loaf. So once I've scraped down the sides, I put a little bit of flour on my work surface and I just gently let this bread fall out of the mixing bowl. So our next step is to round this and place it inside of our banneton. So before we do that, I like to generously flour my banneton and get that flour right in the grooves. And when you're doing this at first, you can really use a lot of flour. There's going to be lots of flour left on your bread crust, but that's okay. As you get familiar with working with a wet dough, you can start reducing the amount of flour that you use. So now we have this very soft, sticky dough that we want to work with. And the first thing I want to do is just to brush any excess flour off the top so that it doesn't get into the dough when we fold it. So I brushed most of the flour away. So what we're going to start doing now is just to start folding in the edges towards the center, gently pat down, take another edge, fold it into the center, gently pat, and just do this all the way around so that we get a round shape like this. So we can see now we have a round shaped dough. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. So I'm going to get rid of this excess flour now because we don't really want the flour on the work surface now. So I'm going to use my dough scraper and flip this over just like that. And again, let's get rid of any of the flour that we have. So now what we want to do is we want to develop tension in this dough so it can hold its shape. So what I like to do is flour my hands, and then from the back side of the dough, pulling towards yourself, pull it towards yourself so that the front is sticking to the work surface and the top is starting to tension over. So again, put your hands on the back of the dough ball, pull it towards yourself, making sure you're not just sliding the whole bread, but that this part is sticking so that you can start to develop tension on the front. So you can see it's a bit rounder, a bit smoother. And then I turn it, and then I do that again. And then I turn it, and do it again. And I keep going until this looks like a nice round loaf. Now if it's sticking to your hands, add a bit more flour on your hands. But remember, don't have flour down on your work surface because that's just going to slide the bread around, and you want it to be a little bit sticky at this point. So you keep turning it, you keep pulling it towards yourself, just so that this top starts getting tighter and tighter. And you can keep going. We don't want to get to a point where it's starting to tear the dough, but we want a nice springy surface. And the less flour that you use at this point, the better, so that the dough sticks to itself. So if you don't need to use a lot of flour, don't. If you find that it's still sticking to your hands, get some more flour on your hands. So now we can see that the dough is nice and round. It has a springy top surface to it. And what I want to do now is put this into my banneton. Now if you've taken other bread courses, you may have seen where the seam side goes up. This time we're going to put the seam side down, because later on when we flip this out, that natural seam is going to break open in the oven.